Day 3, but it's about a week later. We were missing parts, and so I wrote Ken at Holland, and they put the parts together and sent it to me 2 days. We just got them, so way to go, Holland. We're going to unbox those parts and start putting some things on. Basically, it's just the gauge wheel corners, the dirt shields, and then we're going to thread the black plastic roll I have from last year onto one of these holders and see how it works. All right. So we put the dirt shields on. That were these two little paddle looking things. That was pretty straightforward. Just remember to put the clamps on before you put the bar across. And then of course we added these gauge wheels. Very straightforward. Now I just have everything on there loose because of course in the field we're going to have to do the fine adjustments. Okay, so I just kept lined up with the tractor tires. So now we're going to use this bar and this old roll of mulch that I had from last year. And we're going to try to follow their instructions and build that. What I read in there said that you're going to make one end solid and the other end has this nice little adjuster nut, and then those wood bearings are going to go in here. But I've already pulled the cap off of it, and we'll pull the cap off the other end, and those wood bearings, if you will, are going to fit in here. So let's walk around there. When we did this last year, we just kind of pulled it like with a mule. So there's these plastic things that come out of there. Now, all these little groovy things. Looks like some kind of poplar maybe, or maple. And they're going to fit in here. How about that, huh? And then the bearings and the springs. Here's the thing I was talking about, that collar with a little hand twist knob. That's the thing that slides on and off so you can put new reels on. Alright, now, from what I can tell from the pictures, we're going to put something like this on the static end down there, and we'll talk about what that means here in a minute. But these are going to flop down and be the device that allows the plastic just to float on the ground. Kind of cool. So I'm going to slide these on. I don't know exactly where that's going to go yet, but it's pretty close because we're going to center that 4-foot roll of plastic on this bar. Now I'm going to slide on this washer and this wood bearing, and that's the permanent end. That's always going to stay there. And then of course the plastic's going to slide in, the other end's going to go on. I'm going to cut those things off, let them flop down. Okay, so I think do here, slide this through. So that fits in there like that. And walk around on this side and do the same. Then I'm just going to slide that one down right now. Now, according to the instructions, what you want to do is load this thing up with some pretty good spring force. They said the tighter these bearings into the plastic, the better, which I think makes sense. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to load that yet. Probably ought to put that spring on the other end and let the weight of the thing help me. That's probably a better idea. Maybe not. It's probably designed to be out of ways like that. See that? So I think you do want the spring on this side. I don't like that. You gotta put it on the other side, then you can use the weight of the plastic roll instead of fighting that roll. Well, that's the way it goes with new gear, right? Okay, so this collar is going to need to come closer to this holder here, and there's a bunch of rust. There's a little peen mark right there. I can't climb over with this collar, so I'm going to see if I can't brush this up. Okay, so I brushed that off, and now it's kind of sliding. I mean, nice fit, Holland, but I don't think it's really. I mean, I think you could probably make that collar about another 30 thousandths bigger. So, anyway, so we'll set her down. It was there to begin with, so I'm going to bring it back a little ways.
Lock this down. Alright, I'll be where it finds.
Okay, the other thing I decided is we had this plastic upside down, right? So let's flip that roll over real quick. Like this. Alright. So we think we got the plastic oriented right now. We're so smart. Little collar on here. Get a little bit of load on there. Tighten it down. Now, my understanding is, with a helpful assistant,
Is that me?
that's you, we're going to slide this in and then we'll come back. See that?
Yeah.
So I
Problem.
think... Problem. Alright, so my guess is that thing needs to be on the other side. Over here, right?
Oh.
So I guess we can try. We'll move this thing to this side, and that'll slide that guide tube back a little bit. So
Yeah, that should give you enough room.
yeah, let's try that. I think it's just because we got those angles off on that support mechanism. I think what we got to do. There's some chains in the bag, so we'll do that. We'll put the chains on it and just kind of hold them perpendicular, because then they're going to be as far out as they can be, and then we'll compare it against what the ripper point thing's doing, and I'll bet you that's going to solve our problem. Iowa State, go Cyclones. That's where I went to school. Iowa State, great place. Aerospace engineer, and then a master's in applied math, and now I farm hemp. And one of these days we'll have to post that trebuchet video. We designed a trebuchet. So I think this is our helping hand. So I'm going to put this out so it's perpendicular. That'll be the longest distance then from that the nozzle that. All right, pretty close. One more link. And another one more. Okay, and again, this is just for prosperity's sake. We're just trying to maximize that distance so the plastic roll isn't hitting that tube on the ripper point thing. We'll do that same thing on the other one, and then we'll feed that plastic through. So in the handy dandy bag of stuff, they call these things hairpins, and so this is the fixed end of the axle, and then you're supposed to slide that through there to fix it. Well, I'm just going to get a pin or a bolt put across there, but that's going to hold that and keep it from spinning, and so then this thing, I guess, just rotates on the cardboard and the wood. But I think what they're trying to do with that tension in the spring is to keep the linear side of the plastic tight. We talked about these pack wheels having a toe in, and that's going to keep sort of the lateral or across, that's going to keep it tight, and then the tension here is going to keep the long or the longitudinal side of the plastic tight. So you got a variable here and a variable here in the toe in, and that stretches the plastic and tightens it across. So those are the variables. And we tried to flip that around, of course, but now you can see that I think the exit for the T-tape, redirector there, if you will, is not going to hit the plastic anymore when that's at, at least at a 90-degree angle like that. And it looks like it's got some more. I got an inch or so. Alright, so I'm going to put that ripper point back into place. And I think that's about all the assembly we can do on this until we get it out in the field and start debugging heights. Of course, we're going to set the gauge wheels. Gauge wheels are going to set the leveler. Leveler is going to set this height and these furrowers. Right, that's going to make the bed, if you will. And then all of that's going to set this height. Once we have that, we have to set the pack wheels, and then we set those dirt shields. And then the last thing, these are the rear cover, where they fold dirt back up on top of the plastic. So in the videos that Holland has, looks like it works great. Now, my guess is that it's going to take us a couple 100 feet of plastic to get this right. So we'll see.
Alright, rolling.
Okay, this is the debug of our hemp irrigation system. I just bought this from the co-op. It's a 1.5 horse pump. So it's got about 48 gallons a minute, which is about what we're looking for. And the source for the water is this 1,600 50-gallon tank. We're actually going to have 2 of these. We're going to have 2 pumps, 2 of these tanks. This is about what it takes on a daily basis. So we've got a way to replenish this every day, and it waters through the night. So we've got, never used these banjo connectors, but they're pretty slick. So I've got it into a 2-inch bunk. That valve, I got at the co-op, those banjo connectors, and then this 2-inch suction hose over to the inlet, and then a little reducer in 1.5 inches. Okay, so the spec says this thing ought to develop about 45 psi. When it's off, I got it shut down. I got the pressure gauge right here, so I'm going to go in and turn it on. Okay, so the pressure gauge reading right at 45. So far that spec works. It's bouncing a little bit. This is just kind of a debug setup now. It's not the actual thing, and I got a baggie over here. So I'm going to roughly count this out. That's 5 gallons. We'll see how long it takes to fill. Yeah, I don't want to do those water hammers too hard like that. So about 4.5 seconds to do 5 gallons. I think we're going to be there. When we start to put this thing together into a real irrigation system, we'll come back. But so far, pump's working.
Hello.